The show where there are no penalties, nothing is offside, and everything is fair game. This is The Gloves Are Off.
Welcome to this week's edition of The Gloves Are Off. I'm Moses Woldu. We got a great show in store for you, but before that, we got to get to our guests and my co-host as well, Greg Buchanan, of course. How you doing?
Not too bad, Moses. Not too bad.
All right, and our guest this week, Troy Winterhalt. Of course, you're a referee. You're also part of the champion, the NSRBL champion, Lloydminster Twins. How's it going?
Good. Good to be back.
Excellent.
I'm not going to heckle at all. As manager of the Bandits, I know better.
Well, you know what? If you get tossed from a game, I'm sure nobody would be.
Well, I've been tossed from a
disappointed.
few, so yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know if it was this man, but we'll see what happens after today. We'll get to the first topic, of course. Talking about, speaking of champions, Grey Cup 101. The Saskatchewan Roughriders doing what the two previous teams did. Of course, BC and Toronto winning at home, getting that Grey Cup in their own barn. Now, this year seemed a little bit different, too, as well. The character, the players they brought in, the chip on the shoulder that Darian Durant, he seemed serious this time around. He actually put some foresight into this season, knowing that, you know what, you might not necessarily get another opportunity. He was very fortunate in 09 and 10, but it didn't go his way. This time it did. Can we finally say Darian Durant, through all the miscues, through all the trash talking, through all the negativity that he's gone through in Saskatchewan, can we finally say he's an elite quarterback?
Yeah, I thought he was an elite quarterback before the Grey Cup even took place, or even going into the season. I thought in the past he's been one of the better quarterbacks in the CFL. So it's good to see that he did win one, and you could even see it on the field in the second quarter there when they were putting it to Hamilton. He'd throw a long touchdown pass there, and no emotion, just you run off the field. 5 here, 5 there to each guy, and he didn't raise his hands in the air. He was there all business for the whole game.
Yeah, he was a man on mission this season, and it's tough being the starting quarterback in Saskatchewan, and you hear chants of Drew Willie as soon as Durant gets struggling, and he'll hear it again next year. Trust me, that's the way Saskatchewan is. They booed Ron Lancaster, they booed Ken Austin. They were great quarterbacks before him. They have we talked before, they have a Twitter account, Blame Darian. The only thing you can blame Darian on Sunday is that you're a Grey Cup champion. The thing is for him too, his story's not done. He still has a lot of years left.
Yeah.
And I think his legacy is going to build even more so. When they build a new stadium down the road, the banner of Ken Austin on the mosaic right now will probably be Darian Durant on the new one.
Okay, guys. Well, speaking of which, can this team win? Because you talked about he's got a lot of years left. That's speaking of Darian Durant. Do they still have enough pieces to build a winner? Now, keep in mind, you do have the expansion draft in around middle of December. So that new Ottawa franchise is going to pick a few players, of course, so they only have an X amount that they could protect. Do you still think they'll have enough of that core back to make another run in 2014?
Yeah, I would say they probably do. I mean, it all starts with a quarterback. You see it in the NFL, and the CFL is the same way, maybe even more so in the CFL. As long as you have a quarterback, you have a chance to be in there. And like Greg was saying, I think Darian Durant isn't finished right now. They got lots going into the future with as far as he's concerned. And as long as they can get a core group of guys back. I mean, Sheets is a big cog. He looks to be back. So so hopefully if they get all those guys back. Get a good core you can build around that, and veteran leadership. With G. Roy Simon this year, you bring in guys like that can point your young guys in the right direction, and that's the way it works. So
look at the CFL right now. There's a lot of teams that are rebuilding. Montreal's rebuilding out in the east. Toronto is going to have to reload or rebuild. Winnipeg is Winnipeg. Edmonton is horrible. Calgary's going to hopefully be even better next year. And BC's getting old in their defensive secondary. So this is probably the time for the Riders to rebuild and to reload more than anything. I hate saying that D word, dynasty, because you don't see dynasties in pro sports anymore. It just doesn't happen with free agency.
I don't think you've had one in the CFL since the late 70s, 80s with the Eskimos.
So the Riders will be a threat in the West once again. Will they repeat? You know what? There's a lot of teams that are going to be gunning for it.
BC has got the Grey Cup, so they might continue that trend of the home teams winning. the Grey Cup when it matters. Okay, NHL lawsuit. Now, you guys heard about this just yesterday, that you have 10 former NHL players, not directly involved with the PA, but 10 NHL players that are coming out. I believe, I forget who it was, but it was one of the actual more prominent All-Stars that actually came out
Gary Lehman.
and said, and I believe it was, yes, you're right, correct. Gary Lehman that came out and said that, you know, he's a part of this class action lawsuit. What do you guys make of this, considering that the NHL has been one of the most proactive in terms of leagues in the late 90s? They put steps in place and research in place in order to see what are the actual effects, what can we do to prevent this? And we just recently got out of a lawsuit with the National Football League and its former players for under $1 billion. What do you guys make of it?
Well, it's a tough, one of those tough things, right? I mean, just as much as it, you know, it is a league from a league standpoint. I mean, again, the onus goes on the teams and the players as well. The teams have, you know, training staff in place to look after players and to talk with them on a regular basis if, you know, what hurts, what doesn't hurt, and you know, teams got to evaluate their players. That, you know, they can't turn a blind eye to that guy getting hit in the corner, you know, and going down and not getting up. So you know, I think a lot of the things come back to the teams too. But you know, one league does it, and everybody's going to seem to follow suit. You know, so you know, what's next? You know, boxing. You know.
Yeah, the day and age of how pro sports and the NHL especially is, and they have such a big medical staff. Their medical staff is as big as their hockey staff. They have trainers, they have physical therapists that are right there at the rink, and they have basically a medical center just for these players to nurse all their injuries. And now to say that these players weren't aware of their injuries, weren't aware, you know, they're almost saying to the point where they weren't aware how violent the game was. Like, really? You know, I want to support them in their action, but at the same time, you know, it's a violent sport, guys. You dump the puck in, you crash against the boards, you go after the puck. Guys are going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. It's not a figure skating out there. The guys are going to get hurt, and at the end of the day, yeah, sometimes guys' careers are a little shorter than they like to be.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Edmonton Oilers. Despite yesterday's loss, the still impressive Devin Dubnyk coming up.